Welcome back. We have Dr. Timothy Griffin joining us from Atrium. Thank you for being here today.
Yes, ma'am. Always glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you back. Today we're talking about a really important topic. We are in July. It's hot. It's yucky outside. Heat safety. What do we need to know?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So what we do basically this time of year, a whole lot of hazards become, just prevalent in our environment. It's kind of what, in March, April, May, it's not nearly so bad, but come June, July, and August, we're here in the Southeast, we're in the kind of the peak of summer. What you really have, you have an increase in the heat index, you have a increase in the humidity, you have an increase in the overall UV index. That can create a whole lot of problems, mainly just problems from heat exposure, dehydration, potentially even endangering pets, children, and elderly. So kind of those vulnerable people, your patients or populations, they're really at risk. So what you just have to do, the whole key to all of it and managing this time of year, it's just knowledge, prevention, hydration, and just overall knowing where you prevent any complications or risks.
I think that's important. Now, I want to talk about warning signs. Some people, they go outside maybe to the lake or the beach and you're having fun. Maybe you're having a mixed drink or not, but you kind of just lose time and lose track of time and realize, hey, I've been out here maybe a little too long.
Right.
What are the warning signs before we get to the point it's maybe a little too far? Maybe we've been outside a little too long. What are those signs we should be looking out for?
Yeah. So, when a human being, any one of us, when we go outside, and some of us maybe have better heat tolerances than others, you're going to start to notice that you're being overcome with heat. At first, when you get hot, you start to sweat. That's all of us. We all start to sweat, and we all have different thresholds for that. There comes a point, though, where actually you'll start becoming dehydrated, and your body will actually start running low with hydration. You'll actually the sweating will slow down. You'll also possibly get maybe even some confusion. You might get some lethargy, that's tiredness, or kind of some fatigue, weakness. Might even get just a little bit of maybe spinning sensation in your head. All of that's basically if you're losing electrolytes like potassium and sodium through sweat, which we all do. All of that affects the brain. When you're losing water and you're losing electrolytes, all of that affects the brain and the kidneys. Both of those systems can begin to shut down, and when those systems begin to shut down, it can make you it can almost feel drunk, almost feel confused, almost feel like the world's spinning, feel loss of balance. Any of that you definitely need to know, but you'll also notice that sweating really reduce. That's one symptom, or a few symptoms, and it goes on kind of a spectrum from heat exhaustion to heat stroke. Where heat exhaustion is what you typically will notice first, and you can kind of recover from, and kind of implement, just rehydrate. Get you actually a cold bottle of water or Gatorade or Powerade, some electrolyte replacement solution. Get in some shade. Get out of the direct sunlight. All of that will actually help you. But once you've evolved to heat stroke, that's where you've actually begin to experience bodily damage, and that can usually be in the form of typically the temperature taken, if you're 106 degrees Fahrenheit, the human body can't actually get it that hot. That's from external heat it's causing what could be permanent damage, even brain damage. Also just where you could even begin to have seizures. You could begin to just really suffer even some permanent effects. Try not to let it get to that point. That's where you take those initial steps. And a lot of it, I'll probably talk about in a minute, is a whole lot of prevention, because here prevention and knowledge is the key, and most of those things it will never even escalate to.
I want to talk about that prevention lastly. How can we prevent going from either just heat exhaustion to hopefully never, but it could happen, heat stroke? How do we prevent that?
That is the 90% of the whole issue. If you can prevent and honestly you can prevent every complication of heat exposure in these hottest months of the year by just a few wise tips, just a few easy to remember and easy to implement tips. If you are particularly one of those vulnerable populations, the children, the elderly, even pets, on the hot sidewalk, asphalt can become 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're walking your dog, they can burn their paws. All of that's going to happen though in direct UV sunlight. When you're in direct sunlight, the temperature can be 20 to 30 degrees hotter than in the shade. You try to stay in the shade, you're actually going to be in about a 30 degree, potentially cooler area. Hydration, that's the second thing. So have to pre-hydrate, and if you're staying hydrated in advance, if you know you're going to be out in the heat, if you know especially going to be in the direct UV sunlight, you want to be adequately hydrated to the point that you can honestly gauge a lot of it by the color of your urine. You know, you can honestly judge one's hydration status by that. If it's very concentrated, you know you do not have enough water. Well, now if you go out in a very hot environment, you're definitely going to be depleting what water you have.
I think that's important. Really just honing in on heat prevention. There are a lot of tips, and we're actually going to put a few more on our website as well, 41nbc.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, ma'am.